/WM.
Carl Chinn
on BBC WM 95.6.
We Carl Chinn on BBC WM. Delighted to welcome to the show now Mohammed Ali and his partner who's here today. We've got local poet and Birmingham's poet laureate Stephen Morisson-Burke, and Mohammed, who's a graffiti artist but in a different kind of way. We're going to be talking about a new show they're putting on called If Walls Could Speak. It's compelling. The short promo video is absolutely compelling. Mohammed, welcome to the show and assalamu alaikum.
Welcome, Sam. Thank you, Carl. Thank you.
Stephen, thank you for joining us today.
Hello, mate. How are you?
We're going to come to you in a minute, have a chat about being Birmingham's poet laureate, what you've done with Mohammed. Mohammed, tell us a little bit about yourself, first of all, before we find out about this new production.
Sure, yeah, no problem at all. I'm known as a graffiti artist. It all started off really with painting murals and wanting to bring a bit of colour to the neighbourhood, with permission, of course. And painting murals is what I've been doing in Birmingham and beyond around the country. And you know, I've been fortunate. I've been travelling, around the globe as well, painting walls and murals that had something more than just a bit of eye candy. It was something with a message, something that was had a purpose. It was about, connecting people about, in the difficult times that we may live in, whether it's, kind of the issues that we have of racism and ignorance that exists among communities. A lot of the messages that I like to paint on a street corner, it's kind of screaming out, saying something more than just a bit of colour or even promoting something. It's an alternative kind of visual language that we see to the billboards and the things that we see.
And something that we can all share and bring us all together. Most
importantly, that's right. That's something that's kind of drives me for what I do, is using art not just for art's sake, but art for a kind of a higher purpose, really, something that connects people. Because let's face it, the reality is we just need to switch on the television or the radio and we hear, a lot of negativity.
Yeah.
And how do we kind of deal with that? How do we, in a kind of realistically, we need to kind of use whatever sources we have to try and change that rather than...
How did it all begin?
The graffiti, the artwork? The artwork, okay. I used to, since I was a kid, really, since I was young, I've always been, drawing and, the pencil crayons and it was something that I couldn't shake off, really. And I say shake off because the arts was something that my family really never, I think everyone I know, their parents would always prefer something beyond the arts, really. It's in a lot of communities. Get a profession,
be an accountant, be a solicitor,
be a lawyer, be a doctor,
be a pharmacist.
Yeah,
which is good.
Yeah, and it happens in every working class community, not just one ethnicity. Yeah, not any one ethnicity. It was working class communities which would encourage their kids to do something that might give them some kind of economic stability, security. That's right. So I've always tried to do something else, but I haven't, and I've realized creativity is the one thing that I know. Create using color, composition, and creating an experience for someone. So when they see it, it's something that kind of affects them visually.
Give me an example, perhaps one that you've done in Birmingham that people can think about, or a localish one.
A local one, okay. A local one, probably the last one I did. There's quite a few in Birmingham, but the last one was on Anderton Road in Sparkbrook.
Yeah.
And it was featured actually only last week on BBC Midlands Today.
Was it?
It was when because in Sparkbrook we all know about the terror, the convictions of the guys of terrorism, and it was in that community. So that mural actually read the words, although in the news feature they didn't really go into the message at all, and in actual fact it probably didn't come across the message, and that's fine. If they didn't, no one really knows what it said, but I know what it said.
Right, tell us.
The community know, and it actually said, far from anything around the terrorism and all of that stuff, it actually read. It had features of the CCTV cameras within it.
Yeah.
So you saw like kind of iconic imagery of the CCTV cameras that monitored the community, but it actually read the words hope. And underneath the word hope, it said, a weapon against despair.
Yes.
Okay? So it was about uplifting the feeling of the people. The people of Sparkbrook have kind of, you see, for all kinds of reasons, the spotlight thrown on the area, whether it's due to, as we said, the terrorism, or whether it's unemployment, levels of poverty. So actually, I wanted to kind of bring some colour and some meaning as well into the community.
And to show that the people of Sparkbrook, yes, there were these people from there, but the majority of people are not like that.
That's right, absolutely. And it's very easy for mankind, for human beings to...
And this is something me and you were talking about before, the way that poor white working class communities, South Asian Muslim communities, African Caribbean communities, can be stigmatised from the outside.
Absolutely, it's something we need to explore, how we come together, and there's no doubt there's too many similarities between struggling communities, especially migrant communities that may have come, our fathers, our grandparents have come and settled and taken this place as home, Birmingham City. And actually, let's explore some of those parallels that we have, because hope, a weapon against despair, when I painted that wasn't just talking to the South Asian Muslim community, but the Irish, the Afro-Caribbean, the English even, wherever it is, it was for everybody. It's a public mural.
Now, that's informing this latest production, If Walls Speak. Tell us about that.
From the murals and the painting of walls, I wanted to go beyond that now. How do I build an experience for people using poetry, using poets, using visuals, painting, live painting, a narrative, a clear narrative, like a kind of a theatrical story, a piece, music, poetry, visuals, all in one, thrown together and choreographed together to create this experience. I don't think there's no other word for it.
It's an experience. Not production, it's an experience.
Production, yeah. It's not the traditional form of theatre at all. Far from it. Where you're seated and there's a front stage and and the curtains draw. No. We're talking about a kind of promenade style experience that the show and the visuals, the sounds, the poetry were extracted from the real people of these neighbourhoods. So we're talking about an extensive, like grassroots is an understatement. We were on the street corners.
Yeah. This is really egalitarian, isn't it? It's very much about equality.
That's it, exactly.
Giving people a voice for themselves.
Yeah, and I think there's a bit of pride for the people when they hear that the story of that neighbourhood, and the people of that neighbourhood have struggled, and when we were extracting these stories, and yourself was one of them, that research that we extracted about Sparkbrook, about this part of Birmingham, there was emotion involved in that. People were like, I've never shared these stories ever in my life. There was wet eyes, there was tears rolling down because they were reliving those moments, and they felt that here's an opportunity for their story to be heard by the masses.
I was honoured to be asked to be involved in a small way because, as you know, my dad and my granddad, my great-granny and granddad were all Sparkbrook. Lady Pool Road particularly meant so much to my family, and still does to our family. And it is about challenging those negative perceptions then, now and in the future.
Absolutely, and I think people perhaps don't even realise Ladypool Road there's a lot more behind just the Balti houses and the kebab shops that you see now than the real story. And hearing that from yourself about the butchers and the bakers and all of that was fascinating to hear, and helping us shape our story.
How hard has it been, because it's so wide ranging, with people's voices, with poetry, with art? How hard has it been to put together this experience?
I think.
Because it must have been challenging.
It has been challenging. There's no doubt. This getting the right voices involved, extracting and trying to connect with the right people. When we're trying to tell the stories of the people, who do we approach? Whose voice do we include? Have we missed anybody out? It's trying to create something for people, and that's something that's close to people's hearts.
Yeah,
it's a challenge because you want to do it right. And you want to do justice, because at the end of the day, I'm still from this neighbourhood. I'm from this city.
Yeah.
And I want to be able to say to people after the show, I'm not parachuting in and out here.
No.
This is a story.
This is our city. We ain't going to go run nowhere, are we?
That's right.
This is where we live. This is who we belong to.
That's right, yeah.
Now, one of the guys that's been involved with you, introduce him for us.
Yeah, of course, I'd be honoured to, in fact. Just one of the poets they've got a whole team. There's about 5 or 6 of us, other poets as well. But Stephen was really important for me because he's Stephen Morisson-Burke. He is the current Birmingham Poet Laureate. And when we went through the process of who we involve, it was exciting because of that. We were telling a very Birmingham story, a very local story, and I thought there's no one else better to do it than Birmingham's own poet laureate at the moment. And I don't know how his experience, I'm sure he'll share with us whether I've been a pain to work with or not, but I've enjoyed kind of bringing him in and working with him, collaborating.
The creative tension.
Together, working and building together.
Stephen, welcome to the show again.
How are you, mate? You okay?
So now tell us a little bit about yourself, and like with Mohammed, he's always wanted to paint. Was it poetry always for you?
I wrote poetry on and off since I was about 19 years of age, but I used to hide it away like most people do. They write something down, hide it away, think it's a load of rubbish, and then put it out again 6 months later or do something else. And it wasn't until about 2 years ago that I first took to the stage, started performing, and I got a really warm reception. So I carried on and pursued it, and then one thing led to another. In the last 20 months, I'd say it's gone from one thing to another. Fantastic.
How would you explain, similarly like with Mohammed, to explain explain graffiti art, it's a difficult concept because it's so visual. And the same with poetry, it's not visual, but it's oral.
Yeah.
How would you describe the kind of influences on your poetry and the style of your poetry?
My poetry, yes, spoken word poetry. It's what influences me is everything, literally from hip hop to traditional classic poetry and Blake and Shakespeare. I try to meet in the middle somewhere, so it's rhythmic. Storytelling is what I do myself.
I like that phrase, rhythmic storytelling. I really like that, and that's why it fits in so well with Mohammed's approach. Because with the visual, you're doing storytelling as well.
That's it. It's fantastic, and so I was really excited when I got the email to say, "Would you like to join this program?" Oh, I couldn't believe it, over the moon. And it's just one thing's led to another, and I'm learning a lot. I'm learning all the time, so it's fantastic.
And how important is it again that you're learning different approaches to art?
Oh, mate, it's essential. It really is essential. You have to have strengths and weaknesses, but there's certain things that I wanted to get better at, and telling people stories and going on the streets, walking with Mohammed through Spark Brook and actually listening to these stories, amazing, because I've learned it's the little things, it's the small things. Yeah. That's what gives resonance to a story. So it's actually been a fantastic experience. Yeah.
Can you give us a bit of an example of some poetry whilst you're
I can do a little bit from the script if that's all right.
Yeah, that'd be brilliant.
Okay, then I'll give you a little bit. I don't know if I meant to. Mohammed, you got a green light?
Yeah.
Okay.
He has now.
Been bullied. The teacher always sent you to another class if your class was going swimming and you've forgotten your kit. A foreign world where 30 random kids stare at you as you sit in the corner reserved for misfits before listlessly getting on with some tedious work. It was mine and Philip's turn to play vagabonds. But Philip, he had a cunning plan for us to act upon. If we switch classrooms, we'll be dismissed like runts from a litter of kittens. Let's simply pick up our things and leave for 15 minutes before returning back here instead, he insisted. Philip had suddenly turned militant. Renegade was now his middle name, and I didn't see the change from A-grade teacher's pet to guerrilla warfare vet. I must have missed it, but the fact is, I couldn't resist it. Okay, I said. We left the classroom pretending we were ready to be babysitted. The rest of our class left to go swimming. We returned to the vacant room. Silence. Nothing but wooden furniture and silence. I'd never felt a more heightened sense of awareness in my life. 2 8-year-old boys exploring a familiar space as if it was the first time we'd stepped foot in it. I felt excited and terrified and happy and reluctant and scared we'd both put our foot in it. My fear found its way to Philip's face, which then morphed itself into my smile, which instinctively ignited his smile, until we both giggled like little schoolgirls. We were mavericks rewriting history, surely. We sat down slowly to try and remain grounded before breathing life to a plethora of pictures, all based on the Spanish Armada, brown boats, pink men, blue sea, the usual. The constant movement of those crayons was the only melody we allowed to join us. I got to know Philip much better from the way he scribbled. He was calm. My scribbling slowed down eventually. It just took a while. Mrs. Ricketts would kill us if she found out. I know, Philip replied, rejecting the invitation to raise his heart rate. We carried on colouring. I'd never sat next to Philip before that day and couldn't have given 2 hoots what he regularly ate for lunch. But we were united now, a team, possibly even brothers. Like my father said, men are closest after they fought together or fought against each other.
That is, I tell you what, the range of material in there, but also, you could empathise. I was pretty good at swimming, so I wasn't left out. But when I was in science, I was dire, and I'd sit at the back trying to hide you because I couldn't answer. We've all been there, haven't we, Stephen? You know what I mean? Where you're the outsider in a group.
Yeah, that's it. And what I wanted to get across as well is the fact that these 2 characters in the story, they were separate. They'd never have come together before that day, and then that day brought them together. And there's got a little bit of history, and I think that's what I'm finding with the show. I can see that it works very well in this show. And that's
so. Is this? Do you think you're going to be bringing all the lessons that you've learned from working with Mohammed and others, and it will positively affect your poetry and its performance?
Yeah. Definitely, in a potent way. Definitely, I feel reinvigorated. I feel like I've got a sense of direction. I want to pursue this. So even after this project,
Brilliant.
You'll see me walk around the streets, Carl, trying to get people's stories. Just annoying them. Basically.
And it's your fault, Mohammed. Yeah. So tell us the details. Thank you, Stephen, for joining us today.
No problem, mate.
Tell us the details about the show. The experience.
Yeah.
Let's call it that because I think you're right about it.
Yeah. We've got only 2 weeks to go. It's 2 weeks to go, March the 17th and March the 18th. 2-night show, Sunday and a Monday, at the Mac Theatre.
Yeah.
And you can buy tickets at macarts.co.uk. And it's tickets will sell out very quick, I think. So you need to be there. People, I'd encourage anyone who's proud of being from Birmingham and who perhaps would hear about Birmingham being divided or segregated or any of this kind of stuff that we're led to believe often, that to come to the show and experience the stories together. I would just recommend.
I want to say well done for what you're
Thank
doing.
you. No,
Congratulations on the verve, the vigour, but also the compassion that you brought to this topic. And I wish you every success with your work through Collar, through experience, bringing our peoples together. And the same for you, Stephen.
And thank you for your help, Carl. Really appreciate that. Fantastic.
Thank you, Carl. Thank you very much.
Thank you for joining me.
Cheers, mate.